Hi everyone, welcome to this panel. My name is Asim Hussain. I'm the Executive Director and Chairperson of the Green Software Foundation.
Hi everyone, I'm Sanjay. I'm one of the co-founder and steering member of the Green Software Foundation, also lead tech sustainability innovation in Accenture.
Hi, I'm Niels Freier. I'm Associate Director in Software Engineering at the Boston Consulting Group, and I am Chairman of the Green Software Foundations.
Hi, my name is Ben Logan. I'm an Executive Director at UBS in London, and I'm co-lead of the Sustainable Technology Guild at UBS.
Wonderful, and thank you all for joining me today here on this panel. Now, as you all know, one of the theory of change for the foundation that we have is based around three areas that we want change to happen. So our outcome they want to achieve is that there should be zero harmful environmental effects of using software. And in order to achieve those effects, we need changes in the tech culture to make those changes a priority, changes in knowledge so that people know what to change, and then changes in tooling so people can make it easier to make those changes. So I've got some questions for all of you. I'd love to get your feedback on some questions around those topics. So I thought I'd start off with Sanjay, start off with you. We've been talking for several years now. I know you've been in this space for quite a few years now. So I wanted to ask you a tech culture question. So we've seen a lot of change in the tech industry. Large vendors, how large vendors are approaching sustainability. How have you seen this change? And do you have any advice for an organization looking to embrace green software in their products and offerings?
Thanks, Asim, and very, very important question. Definitely there is a change we are seeing last few years. My early study of the importance of a topic like green software in various conversations with CIO, it was quite a revelation when they said this is not something which is a top priority for us. This is the priority of the Chief Sustainability Officer. But I'm surprised how rapidly things change. And today, every CIO I speak to, they are interested to know what's the carbon emission level from my current IT. How do I measure it? How do I reduce it? How do I make it part of the overall ESG strategy and the net zero commitment of my organization? So clearly there's a huge shift. How do I enable my people to embrace green software in the software development lifecycle, right? So clearly on the one hand, we are seeing a shift where green software is becoming a very important tool in the hands of the CIO, and they are very interested to change the culture and embed sustainability. The other aspect I see is not many people have been able to achieve these organizations. So, there are some early adopters, like many in this group, but there are many who are keen to embark on this journey. So what they really need is a kind of an adoption approach, a framework that can help them embrace green software. I've spoken at length on this with some thought leadership as well. But many of our many companies have been proposing an approach, including what we do in Accenture. We talk about sustainability in tech, which is all about green software, and then sustainability by tech, which we all know that technology is needed to accelerate the attainment of sustainable development goal. And more importantly, sustainability at scale, which in fact led us to think about a consortium like the Green Software Foundation, because this is such a new area. None of us can do it alone, and we have been seeing it in the last more than a year and a half. How many new standards, trainings, practices, tools, and do all this at scale, because the time window is not too big, right? So that's to the question on culture, a big shift. People need help. We have to come together.
Yeah, very good points. And I've seen it as well. I've seen the change in culture and the change in the interest in this area has been phenomenal over the last couple of years. The foundation from its birth to now has been breakneck speed. It's just been the growth has been phenomenal, and that's shown us that there's such a big interest in this space. Let me move to knowledge. So I'm going to ask you, Niels. So in order to, impact, there is a cultural change that's happened right now to some degree. Like CIOs are asking a lot of questions around this space. Organizations, they want to change, but in order to do that, they need knowledge. So, what are the gaps in knowledge, in your opinion, regarding green software? And, what should everybody know, that they don't know already?
Yeah, no, it's a good question on exactly going to what you said. Now, everyone is curious about that. When a few years ago, let's be honest, it was not on the table at all. Everyone was interested by potentially the performance of the tools, etc., etc. But now green is everywhere for obvious reasons. And I would say it's not a lack of knowledge. I would say we have the knowledge since a long time. We know how to measure stuff, how to aggregate data together, etc. What we lack, it's again visibility. We don't know exactly which data to assemble together. We don't know exactly which data point at the exact time, etc. So it's a little bit more complex, I would say, than simple finance 2 + 2 = 4. Now we need to extrapolate with missing data, really moving from day to night, from 1 hour to another, etc. So it's more, I would say, the different tools and knowledge about how to combine them properly to be able to extract proper insights. And after, the action will be super simple. We all know the very obvious, you can shut down the server over the night. It's not always so simple, but it's a good start. And to extract this type of new behavior, again, you need to gain visibility at the very low level to extract this type of behaviors, on the high level to be able to report to the CEO level. For example, you want to start a new big software inside your companies. We need, from the design phase, to have the tools and the knowledge to be able to take that in account. As of today, we take in account security, maintainability, etc., at different degree, of course. And now we need to do the same with, I would say, sustainability at broad. Soon as we will start to do that, and we see that when we talk with engineers and with everyone involved with the creation of products, they are interested by that, exactly as we are interested to lower the carbon footprint of cars, airlines, etc. So we need to leverage that to give them the tools, to give them the time to focus on that. And I'm very optimistic we'll be able to have very large impact, because we need to remind everyone the carbon impact of software in general is massive. We were blind since very recently because, again, we only talk about the very common, I would say, culpable. But of course, they're important, but digital at large is very important. And now we are gaining this visibility.
Yeah, wonderful. Really good points. And I think one of the points you said early on, I think is really important, which is that we are oftentimes, a lot of what we're talking about is not new knowledge, it's existing knowledge. We're just reformatting it and making sure it's aligned to the right incentives and we can surface those things. One of the things we'll be announcing later on during this session, this decarb session, is a training. So we've got the training, we've especially got a patterns catalog that's being developed. A lot of that patterns catalog is not us developing new patterns, it's us pointing to existing patterns that already are available on the internet. So I think that's kind of a very, very important point. So thank you very much, Niels.
If I can just jump on this one, I think It's a good point. It's something I teach to all the people around me. To improve the situation, we just need to use this type of pattern. And they are existing since forever in one way that will improve what we create by making them more sustainable, potentially less expensive to run, etc. So again, as you described, it's not new knowledge, it's just new usage of the technologies.
Yeah, agree. Thank you. So let me move on to tooling. So this field that we're in, it's not easy. I mean, sustainability, solving this problem, this global problem that we're trying to solve, I always tell people this is not easy. I, in fact, always tell people this is probably going to be the hardest thing you ever do in your entire life. So just be prepared. But one of the things we need in order to make this whole thing easier is better tooling. Tooling makes making these choices and actioning these choices much more palatable. So carbon-aware computing is one of these kind of pillars of green software. It's a brand new field of computing, and it's one of the fields that the foundation is helping to grow. Google and Microsoft are both heavily invested in this space. We've got work from the US government is investing in this space. This has reached the mainstream now. So, and also the foundation has created something called a carbon-aware software development kit. which I believe UBS was involved in that process as well. So Ben, how do you see organizations leveraging, carbon-aware computing, but also perhaps the SDK, internally in the future?
Yeah, good question. I think, first of all, I think the scope is huge. The potential for reducing energy usage via, more effectively distributing your workloads, whether that's through time distribution or location, is massive. As you said earlier, the challenges to reducing energy consumption are huge, but I think in this space, there's significant opportunities and low-hanging fruit where teams can potentially realize real benefits relatively easily. If you think about how large organizations typically schedule work, and I don't mind, I confess I've done this myself in the past. You might schedule something for the end of the business day or the end of the financial quarter, or other randomly chosen time intervals. Midnight is a favorite for lots of people. And equally, the location might be chosen based on just legacy decisions long before we even became aware of this topic. So I think, if you can think about you might choose a region based on resilience or performance reasons, for example, but you're not giving too much thought to the exact country or location. And that could be a relatively easy change. So I think the opportunities are very significant. If you're operating in the public cloud, as we are at UBS with Microsoft Azure, then there could be the opportunity to move huge swathes of your workload, perhaps even all of it in some areas, to more appropriate locations or to run at more appropriate times. Tooling, obviously, can go a long way to helping to ease that transition. The likes of Azure obviously have their own net zero commitments, and that's fantastic. But the use of renewable energy, that might be through offsetting or RECs, if you can move the workload away from fossil fuel powered locations, that is a very real difference that you can make. So yeah, like you said, we've seen pockets of adoption at UBS with a lot of success. They're doing a great job in a number of teams of proving the concept. So I think it's really now just a case of spreading the message, giving teams the time and the help that they need to make this change. I think the other area that's interesting is, thinking about incentives and how do you prioritize this when teams obviously face a lot of competing priorities. So you might want to think about the introduction of a carbon tax. I know Microsoft had a lot of success with that. Or transparency around potential cost savings that might result from this as well. Yeah, like we said earlier, I think increasing the awareness and good training should boost the adoption. If you're using good sustainable design principles, then that should remind people to carefully consider carbon awareness and adopt appropriate tooling like the GSF Carbon Aware SDK.
Yeah. And I thank you for that. I think one of the things that gets mentioned to me often is that the financial sector is one of the ones which there's a lot of excitement about carbon-aware computing because of the fact that still a large part, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I hear that a large part of the financial sector is still run through batch jobs, overnight jobs. The markets close and then they open the next day. And so this is the kind of workloads are very, very they have that flexibility to a degree where they can take advantage of carbon-aware computing. And it's a very interesting field. I see a lot of, even in the research and the academic spaces, a very ripe field for work. So yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for being one of the early drivers of the Carbon-aware SDK project as well. Let's move towards another knowledge question. What I ask is kind of more of a personal question to you, Sanjay, actually. I think it might be quite interesting to know. So in your journey into the space, you've written about green software in the past, and I personally read about green software, and I talk about my journey into understanding, like the doors opening as to the nature of this challenge that we have. So in your journey into space, was there something that really changed, framed how you see sustainability and technology and how they kind of interact? Oh, you're on mute, Sanjay.
Great. So multiple things here. One is my own interactions with the CEOs and the study, at a level of technology and sustainability. What I observed, and our studies proved it, is when we integrate our technology strategy with sustainability strategy and business strategy, one can outperform the competition and give better shareholder value, right? So goes to the earlier point, we always knew this, but why are people not acting? People will act when there's something for them. And the whole fact of bringing sustainability technology together, means more profitability as well. So that's a one big reason. It also means, what I have observed is reduction in cost, because there is a linkage between lowering emission using optimal levels of hardware and FinOps, right? And the third most revealing factor, I would say, is how serious or severe is this problem. There is very little um, awareness in people at large. We have always associated digital with clean. We would always advise, stop printing paper and, use digital technologies. The rise of all the entertainment platforms and social media, we are all hooked. But most of us never realized that a lot of those energies is coming from burning fossil fuel, right? And there are projections that our sector, information communication technology sector, will contribute to 14% of greenhouse gas emission by 2040. So it's not trivial. Now, all this, when it comes together, the impact of ICT, the possibility of better profitability, shareholder value, reduced cost, all these are good news. And to me, personally, this is what made me feel that this is a topic worth exploring. The other thing I also found out from my own interactions with number of CEOs is, while they understand this is an important area, many of them still struggle. What should be my technology strategy and investment like? And also a question of affordability of technology. So, which means that there is, in my experience, a need to guide the business at large in this whole space, right? And finally, other interesting observation I had seen was in my early days when I was exploring this topic. It's people would say, I have already moved into the cloud. I have done everything required. There's nothing more to be done. But the very fact that there is so many different pockets where you can create more carbon efficient, carbon aware interventions, right? From your entire software development lifecycle, DevOps, in data, in AI, in the cloud, in the end user devices, bringing circularity concepts, reusing your end user devices where a lot of emission happens. So this is a very, very broad and vast area. It's not as simple as saying, I have moved to the cloud, why do I need to do this? Or I use a lot of SaaS and PaaS, why do I need to do this? So I think, in my experience, uh, those were the early objections to this area, but those are changing rapidly thanks to a lot of work we all are trying to do collectively.
Yeah, definitely a lot of that resonates with me also. And I remember, a lot of stuff in the green space, you tend to have to make a trade-off, or it always feels like it's a trade-off between doing something good versus doing something well. Whereas with green software, the amazing thing is that a piece of software is usually faster, it's usually cheaper, it's usually more reliable, has all these positive traits to it. And that's I think that's one of the attitudes we need to change in the world, is that, this is better. We're not proposing you do something worse. We're saying do it better. Which I think is thank you for that, Sanjay. That was, that was the kind of insight I wanted to see. Let's move back to tech culture. So, Ben, you've been one of the people who've driven and changed, or one of the people who've been trying to change the culture of UBS internally. How have you seen, tech culture around sustainability change over the last few years, and where do you see it going in 5 years' time? Where would you like to see UBS in 5 years' time?
Yeah, it's probably no exaggeration to call it a revolution, right? It's over the last 18 to 24 months, say, it's really been quite dramatic. I think we've gone from having isolated pockets of very passionate individuals, really trying hard to make positive change, but struggling, frankly, now coming together and working collectively as a team. And in our case, it sort of coincided with a reaffirmment of the net zero commitments for UBS. So everything we're doing aligns very nicely with the strategic goals of the firm. But yeah, real momentum now. I think one of the challenges is going to be maintaining that and carrying it forward into the future. I think people are bombarded with climate messages these days, and we need to make sure that we're delivering tips and advice and tooling and learning that can actually help them make a real difference, so that they don't just feel kind of overwhelmed and hopeless. But yeah, I think very positive, and I think things look very encouraging for the future. I think the opportunities are quite clear. I think in some ways, if you look at the challenges we've faced moving to petrol cars or moving away from coal-powered power stations, I think in the case of tech, once you crack that initial, and we talked about it a bit earlier, that light bulb moment where you realize, hang on a second, as an IT professional, my impact at work is probably far greater than my impact at home, right? And for me, that was a real revelation. It was like, I'm running 100 servers at work. Why am I worried about my TV at home? It doesn't compare. It's not even on the same scale. So yeah, I think once you can crack that, then I think the opportunities to actually make change are vast. I think there's a lot of potential. And we've had some early success with various initiatives at UBS, and I know other companies have too. So a lot of hope and positivity for the future. I think frankly, we're not starting from a great place. Like we said earlier, awareness historically has been very low. It's not something that you typically consider when you're designing an application, but there are signs now that is starting to change through education and the introduction of good principles and good strategies. So yeah, I think feeling quite confident that we're on the right track.
Wonderful, yeah. And I think that something you said earlier on, again, that resonated with me, is like I feel that we're a solution. I remember once speaking at a conference earlier this year, and after the conference, somebody came up to me and said, thank you for that. You're the first person at this conference who actually spoke about a solution. Everybody's telling me how bad everything is going really fast. And that's one of the things I'm really proud of what we do in the foundation, is that we're giving people solutions. And there's a lot of people out there that they want to do it. They're empowered to do it, but they just want to know what to do. So yeah, I really feel that as well. Let's move again to tooling. So Niels, I know tooling, it doesn't necessarily have to be, just a software tool. There can be ideas, methodologies, Agile, for instance, I would classify as a tool. So what tooling would you love to see in kind of 5 years' time that doesn't exist today in the green software space?
Yeah, it's a difficult question, honestly, because we know the new use cases are emerging right now. For example, with the hackathon we are doing at the foundation, we can see, I would say, young people, but not only the young one, developing new use cases. And I would say most of them are, again, using the existing technologies, the existing tools. They combine them in a different way to enable new ways to use the technologies. And I think that's where we will evolve. I don't expect, at least that's my opinion, like magical tools to appear to fix everything. We know that. But new usage, new way to take that in account, you mentioned Agile, When we do Agile, every iteration, every sprint, whatever the wording we are using, we revisit a little bit what we did and we try to improve. And we do that for different metrics. Again, as mentioned at the beginning, I hope, and we start at least in some companies to take this metric, substability. So for that, again, we have the metrics. We have, as you mentioned, the performance of the code quality by itself. So we have the tendency to say, as you said, green code is good code. And that's working both ways. So it's clearly not a burden we put on our team. It's a new way to, I would say, take action. And as said by Ben, everyone wants to participate. So I don't believe in the magical tools. I really believe in the motivation of everyone to take action to fix, I would say, all the heavy workload we put on the digital world.
That's a really interesting way of looking at it. That's a very interesting answer, and it reminds me of a saying that I say. I think it's from Brené Brown. I think it's creativity is connecting the seemingly unconnected. And one of the reasons I love the hackathon, and we're going to be announcing some of the hackathon winners during this session, is the creativity. I mean, some of the solutions we all know. All of us on this call have known about carbon-aware computing for a while now. But the creative solutions that people are coming up with in the hackathon are really inspiring. And I look at some of these solutions and I think, wow, I never would have thought of combining carbon-aware computing with, I don't want to give any favoritism, but like carbon-aware computing with like X solutions. So I think I really like that thinking about it. Maybe we don't need tooling. We just need to embed and connect all these different existing tooling together. Yeah, thank you so much for that. So thank you, everyone. That was a really interesting panel. Thank you for all your insights and your advice and all your continued support in the foundation. Hopefully we'll have many more years of green software events in the future to discuss more. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.